if you want to see, it's best if you can come forward.
I'm looking in the room. Oh, there she is.
So I want to welcome everyone to this panel on screenwriting and film options. I'm Truby. I have the pleasure of moderating this panel. Before I introduce our distinguished panelists, and we are lucky to get two excellent writers up here, I want to say a few words about the proverbial elephant in the room. That's intriguing. What is that elephant? I've been doing screenwriting panels for many years, more years than I care to tell. And I can say this, that there is one question, and one question only, that almost everyone in the room is here to ask. How do I get an agent, sell my spec script, and break into Hollywood so I can be this multi-million-dollar screenwriting professional? Okay? Unfortunately, none of us can tell you how to do that. These are really some of the great mysteries of the universe. No one can tell you how to do this. So we're not going to talk about that. The reality is that if you write a spec script, you have approximately 0.001 chance of getting that script bought and made. Now, all is not bad news. First of all, let me say what I can tell you what not to do. Never go to Hollywood. Make them come to you. It's all about being invited. And I'd like to use something that Christopher McQuarrie said very recently. This is the screenwriter of The Usual Suspects, in my opinion, best crime film of the last 30 years. He said, stop thinking about the business as something to break into and start thinking of yourself as a business to be acquired. It's very heavy. Your job is to create, improve, and demonstrate your value. Ask yourself if the lottery is the best way to do this. So, where she's talking about building your brand, as opposed to going through the lottery of the spec script world. That doesn't work. So that gives us two main options, and they're very good options. First of all, if you want to sell your screenplay, write it first as a novel. Absolutely very important. Write it as a novel, publish it. If you have a great idea for a screenplay, write it first as a novel because you have 100% chance of getting that novel published. Those are the kind of odds I like. I don't like the 0.001. I like the 100%. The second option, again, Christopher McQuarrie, the quote, after 25 years in the craft, I've learned the secret of making movies is making movies. Starting with little movies no one will ever see. And with the technology now, that is very doable for everyone to do. So instead of talking about how to get an agent, how to sell your spec script, I want to take advantage of the tremendous talent that we have up here and talk about things that we can help you with, such as craft, adaptation, transmedia, and taking control of the ancillary rights. Let me introduce our panelists. To my far left is Terri Tatchell. She is co-writer of the film District 9, which was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay and won the 2009 Bradbury Award from the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. She also co-wrote the film Chappie and is the author of the upcoming Endangered and Misunderstood Children's Picture Book Series. Courtney Joyner is an award-winning writer of fiction, comics, and screenplays. He has more than 25 movies to his credit, including the cult film Prison, starring Viggo Mortensen. His other scripts have included TV movies for CBS, USA, and Showtime. He is the author of the Shotgun Western series and Nemo Rising. He has twice been nominated for Peacemaker for the Peacemaker for Best Short Story. Reading their credits takes half the session. We've got a heck of a bunch of writers out there. So, let me start with Terri with a question. And first of all, I have to admit that I am a tremendous fan of the book. I'm trying to keep it under control. But I'm a huge fan of District 9. It is a terrific screenplay. It deserves all the accolades it got. I believe that screenwriting is pure structure, pure story. And I love how you carried a big theme of racism and apartheid in the structure using the science fiction and horror genres, which emphasize this idea of the alien, the other, as less than human. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you put together the structure to carry a theme like this that can be very heavy-handed, but you did it without preaching to the audience.
Hi, thanks for coming, everybody. So District 9 actually took us a year to write. So, and that was constant, full-time writing, knocking it back and forth. We co-wrote it. And I co-wrote it with my husband, so that's like really full-time. Because you're like, I don't have an idea. And so we started, it was an adaptation of a short film he'd done, which gave us the world. So we knew it was aliens within South Africa. And where that originally came from was xenophobia going on at the time where, and it's actually really bad right now too, where people born in South Africa were very upset with people that were coming down from Africa and taking their jobs. And the word that they used was aliens. So, and that we jumped off from there. And then for a year, we knew we had an opportunity to work with Peter Jackson and develop this film and hopefully get it made. So, pressure was on. We were working with Peter Jackson and really wanted to do a good job. And we went through many versions of different characters in this world and how to best tell the story. Neil grew up in South Africa, so his focus was definitely apartheid. I tried to focus a little more on just oppression in general and history and how it repeats itself over and over and over, and it really is the same. And 2009, that film came out, and right now it's more applicable, I think, again, even than it was. So it wasn't, we've written other films where it's like, okay, we follow this formula and this is how it goes, but District 9 was such it took so long to write, and we tossed around so many ideas that I don't have well, we did this, and then we did this, and then we did that. But I will say that the breaking point, the aha moment, was when we realized that the oppressor was going to turn into the oppressed. And that was our aha moment, when Charlotte Vicus was going to turn into an alien. And from that point on, it definitely seemed to fall into place much more. It was like pushing a rock uphill before that, and then it was like, no, this makes sense. And working with Neil is great, because sometimes I can get all the formula and this and that, and he's all about the roller coaster ride. And so the two of us working together, it was a very good marriage of, at that point in our writing careers, of both worlds. And I think people at that time that saw District 9 was like, oh, there's you, there's him, there's you, there's him. And so that worked really well. I'm talking way too long because I don't have a solid answer. But no, so what happened, this is what we did in that case. I think we worked extremely hard at it, is the short answer. And to reverse engineer it, I don't know that I could.
Could you focus on that aha moment? Because I also think that's the key structural flip of the story. I think that's
the aha moment.
That's the really important.
Yes, once we realized that, it was interesting because in focusing on apartheid and xenophobia that was then taking place, it was very much that the oppressed became the oppressor was going on at that time. And so we kind of flipped that and made the oppressor become the oppressed. So that made it all kind of just logically fall into place. And I think when you get that linchpin moment in any art, really. It's like everything else, it's just nicely, then it starts to just fall into place. And since then, working on anything, it's like, if it feels hard, it means you haven't got that right moment yet. And so just keep trying, and then when you got that moment, it's like, ah, and then it's fun, so that's.
Transmedia is a big deal in the entertainment business. And this is every medium. And these are stories that are translatable from one medium to another, and they're franchisable. So that's why producers are really big on this. For example, Martian went from online novel to published novel to hit film. Courtney, your story, Nemo Rising, is a perfect example of transmedia. Could you discuss taking control of the ancillary rights for Nemo Rising? This thing is quite a journey.
Absolutely. Here, I'd just like to add a grace note to something that John said. I belong to the Western Writers of America, and the very first meeting I ever went to, it was just icon after icon. And John Jakes, Elmore Leonard, and Larry McMurtry, and every single one of them said, we are novelists, and Hollywood then came to us. So what Christopher McCord said was absolutely correct. It was, they focused on the novels, and then, of course, had enormous success with movies and television, but it was always the novel stories. Nemo Rising had been a spec television pilot that I wrote for Universal about 25 years ago. And it had been continuously optioned at one point by MGM to take it off the market so they could, so it wouldn't be in competition with Stargate Atlantis. I found that out later. And we kept having these false starts. The BBC optioned it at one point, and they lined up a wonderful cast, everyone from Downton Abbey. That didn't fly. And I finally just decided that I wanted to write it as a novel. And at a convention, I met an editor from 20Books and told him what I was doing. And at the time, we thought the BBC deal was going to happen. So he said, let me read the script, because he thought he was going to get movie time. So I gave it to him. We started talking, and then the whole thing crashed and burned. So I had to then call Tor and tell them there's no movie. There's not going to be anything. And they said, no, go ahead and write it anyway. So I did, but this was the thing as far as the rights went, since it pre-existed as a screenplay. When they made the deal to do the book, things like dramatic rights and comics and all the rest of that stuff were kind of included on my side because it existed in another form and was not a spec novel. So this wasn't like some great Machiavellian negotiation. It just fell into place in that way because I had something that was complete that we decided to then turn into another form. After the novel came out, I decided to take the next step into gaming. And it was, again, through a friend who said, oh, my cousin designs games. Why don't you call him in New Jersey? Because I had sent out lots of blind emails to no avail at all. I spoke to this fellow. He was great. His name's Andrew Parks. And he said, well, send me the stuff. Let's see what's going on. So I sent him the things. And then I found out that he had been designing all the board games for Marvel and DC. And I was like, holy cow, what in the world? So he called me, and yes, he did charge me. He said, but we'll design this thing. We want to do something that's kind of a steampunk bent and everything else. So I'm like, great. So I made arrangements, I'm borrowing money and everything. We get the thing designed, but there was no publisher for it. So we did, and ultimately it was like this gigantic spec situation. He then took it to the company of his kids and Mika, and then they bought it. And it came out about 6 weeks ago, and it's doing very well. But boy, that was a real moment, because again, this particular project, as it has gone from different media to different media to different media, every single time has basically been a spec situation. And then fortunately, it's found its little homes as we go along. And because of the game and the novel and all that stuff, it all turned around, and now Netflix has optioned it, and so we'll see what happens from there.
That's the power of a story that has at its core this fantastic high concept. I mean, I don't have to have read it, seen it, played the game. When I hear Nemo Rising, I want to know what this story is. And I know it will work in any medium. That's the power of having a great premise right from the beginning. It's so important in every medium in popular entertainment today. Transmedia also leads to the topic of adaptation. If you write a popular novel like The Martian, and it gets interest as a film, it is essential that you be the one to adapt it, that they come to you for that. And that's because, again, you've got to stay focused on the prize, which is building your brand. So we want them to come to you, and they're taking your storyboard and taking it to another medium. So that means you have to have the ability to adapt both from novel to film, but also, if you've been writing spec scripts, from script to novel. So, Terri, back to District 9. And you mentioned that you adapted a short film, Alive in Joburg, into a feature-length film. And it seems that both are in the science fiction category. But the stories, at least from what I can see from the outside, are very different stories. Can you talk about the process of adaptation that you went through to stretch it out and make it something that wasn't just, oh, that's a short film that they really had to pad? It doesn't have any sense of that at all.
I mean, Alive in Joburg wasn't mine. It was my husband's, so it felt very intimate. And I felt like, because I was working with him, I had permission and freedom to just take the world and do whatever I wanted with. And that's kind of the key, because I subsequently worked on adaptations where I'm adapting other people's work. And for, I'd say, first and second draft, even, I err on the side of trying to respect the work and respect the author too much. And I try to take that and make it fit, cram it into a film structure. And it's a huge mistake, and I know it while I'm doing it, but I can't help it. And it causes so much extra work, and then you have to put it away and try and see it clearly. And what I can't imagine is doing that with your own work. Like that would be, to me, the ultimate challenge, but you have to do it. And my biggest advice I could give is just pick the world, the theme, the story, the whatever the heart of it is, and try and just sit and see it as a film in your head, separate from that, as opposed to transposing that novel. And those exact characters, maybe you have to merge characters, you have to be willing to make it a completely, that would be my advice. And we were able to do that with District 9 because I had Neil's permission, and I didn't feel, in fact, it would have been impossible to just, but I think with your own work, it's, you have to almost not think of it as the novel. You have to think of it, or it won't be the best adaptation it could be. You've got to think of the heart, and whether to you that's the themes or the characters or the world. Pick that and start fresh. That would be my advice.
What did you mean when you said that you tried to take a novel and put it into film structure and that didn't?
Okay, so an example is I did an adaptation of a South African novel, great novel, Charlie Human. It's called Apocalypse Now, and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's such a good novel. And when it was brought to me, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I love this. It's just nuts. And if it had been a TV series, I could have done that. No problem. I could have, but I crammed it very loyally into a film and then had people read it, or not the people that hired me, luckily, and what is going on here? Like, this is just crazy, I don't get it, I feel like I'm on a truck trip, this isn't, you can't do this. And so then, set it back for a while, and you just gotta take out things, there's amazing things in that book that just couldn't live in the film. They just couldn't. Some of them because it was just too much of a stretch, and it worked when you're reading it, but it doesn't work within the world of the film, and perhaps the rules weren't. When people are watching movies, you're so smart sitting there, and you just need everything needs to work, and every rule needs to. Sometimes when you're reading a book, you're a little more forgiving of things, and so I did 2 drafts to myself that really didn't work, and then I just threw them out and just sat there and thought, okay, what's the movie? Like, why did I love that? Why did I want to adapt that? And the author given me full permission. I went to South Africa and met with him, and he's like, no, just you do what you do with it. And I didn't do that at first. I was like, no, I respect you. Your book's amazing. I wanted to, honestly, and it's like, that's a mistake. And I always think that if I ever write a novel, which I really hope I do one day, I have so much respect for everyone that can do that, that then obviously I would want to adapt it, but it's like, my God, could I do that with my own? So yeah, there. I think it would be a challenge, but it's like, don't do Apocalypse Now, you'll waste your time. Like, don't do Apocalypse Now, don't do what I did with it, and yeah.
When I gave my script of email to the editor of Tor, they decided they wanted to do it as a novel. I got a very stern warning from them. Do not just add he said, she said, and turn this back into us.
That's a great lead-in. You have a unique situation here in that you went from TV pilot to screenplay to novel and back to TV. Are there any guiding principles that you used in jumping from one medium to another and going from, and really trying to adapt it to so many different mediums? That's very unique.
Well, the biggest thing when I wrote the spec television pilot originally, this was a long time ago, Universal was doing a series of syndicated TV series, including Hercules. So they had a formula and they had a template, so I kind of wrote it to what I thought that template was. And so then when we decided to let's really shoot this as a feature, it opened everything up. And the biggest issue was we're writing something that's period. We're writing something that's going to have a lot of special effects and has water and it has dirigibles and all these wonderful Jules Verne things. And then I took those and expanded on it. So it was never going to be something that could be done for a small amount of money, or at least by Hollywood standards, not gigantic, but certainly in the middle. And so I just let it fly with this script because I was trying to be very, very careful with the TV pilot to not go too crazy. And I thought, well, why not go crazy? And then when I wrote the novel, I got crazier still because there's no restriction. And what's interesting is that with the novel and kind of letting my imagination fly, we were just really just expanding on this universe. That was ultimately what everybody responded to. So my restricting myself and kind of my approach actually was a bit of a mistake.
This question of transmedia and adaptation leads to a larger question. Film and novels have converged as medium for the last 30 years. And what I mean by that is that novels have become much more cinematic, with strong narrative drive, quick dialogue, tight scenes. At the same time, films now require the plot density of a novel. This is one of the major trends in Hollywood in the last 20 years, increasing plot density. So my question is, what do you see as the key differences in these two forms, if any, when writing screenplays versus writing novels? I know that's a huge question, but what do you think?
Did you hear the novels?
I don't want to touch that one.
The biggest question now, I think that I've certainly heard from editors over and over again, now that you hear from producers, is you walk into a piece of material and they go, is it franchising? And how many people here are working on book series? That's it, either with their own, no, see, either with their own creation or for a publisher. That is what is now the model for practically everything. And so with the movies, believe it or not, I tend to think more in terms of that particular project at that time. I've created something where I think, wow, the characters might go someplace after this or whatever. I try not to think about that too much. Plus, in most of my scripts, everybody gets killed at the end anyway. So, but with the books, the idea of continuing adventures for these characters in that world has always been built into the formula right from the get-go. And with the Shotgun Western series I did for Kensington, actually my original idea for that was as a comic book series. So I prepared a presentation with artwork and everything else. It didn't go, but fortunately I was able to, I knew one of the editors of Kensington, Terri Goldstein, he looked at the stuff, thought, hey, let's give this a whirl. And so I was ready, but here again, that was something, and I had already plotted out 25 issues of a comic book. So what he got was literally a series presented to him. Now I wouldn't suggest that just right off the top of my head to anybody, because some of the work was wasted, but the reality is that this seems to be something that absolutely all the publishers are focused on right now. And then by the same token, when a movie company gets interested, they like to think in terms of, okay, this is going to be the first one, then will there be others to follow?
Not being a novelist yet. It's a little harder for me to address that, but I think I was having a conversation this morning with a friend about what types of novels I like and why. And I probably, 10 years ago, was lucky enough to attend John Truby's course, 3-day course. And it is really the key. I think it's what he teaches about theme and moral problems and characters and that all being intertwined. To me, that's kind of the magic key to what makes me like anything really, anything I'm consuming, whether it's art, any type of art. And that tends to go very much hand in hand with what's going on in the world at the time. And I feel like producers are really paying attention to that right now. For instance, they don't necessarily, like right now, everyone's kind of scared and there's a lot of darkness. And so they seem to be more interested in giving the general public things they can consume that maybe address those fears, but in a gentle, soft way. It's a kinder, they don't want dark, they don't want violent, they don't want, and I think that's the case I was sitting in a session yesterday that was showing the stats, and it was about erotic fiction versus, it's like all of a sudden that's going down and isn't as popular, it's the clean romance they want. And it's like, I thought, oh, that's like what they're saying in film right now. It's like the audience is consuming different things, and I think that translates from books to films to TV to everything right now, and that's kind of interesting.
Courtney, you are an expert at writing the Western, which was my favorite genre growing up. In the 1960s, the anti-Westerns put an end to that form for the movies, for the most part. We see very few Westerns in movies over the last 40 years. My question is, I know that Westerns are still popular as a novel form. I'm wondering if television has, with the serial structure, has that brought back the Western to film entertainment?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And we might note for the last 50 years, 3 Westerns have won the Academy Award for Best Picture of the Year. So that was that gave us a nice little boost. But this amazing success over these past few years of Godless, The Sun, oh my gosh, the Deadwood movie was the highest rated HBO made for the cable station movie that they have a podcast. So, but that is correct. It's not going to be theatrical. It is very much the streaming and the cable services that are going after the westerns, and they still keep going. And there's several in production right now, and they're big, including, no one's supposed to know this, but they are doing a Justified movie.
One of the main strategies in both film and novel today is that you have a story with multiple genres, but it is also founded on one genre. In other words, you have a primary genre. Now, District 9 combines science fiction with horror and has a number of action elements. I'm wondering if going in, you had a genre or multiple genres that you had in mind, or did the story just kind of evolve and that's when you brought in these films to make it work?
I think that I'm always prefer a challenge, and an unlikable protagonist is something that I love tackling, and genre blending as well. I just love that. But that is not popular right now. We are hearing loud and clear, nope, don't do that. We want one clear genre. The audience wants that. They expect that. Do not blend genres. But I still think it's a good idea.
I do too. Just don't tell anybody. The second major strategy for storytelling, again, in both novel and film, is to transcend the form. In other words, you have to hit the beats for that form, but you also have to twist them in a way that the audience has never seen it done before. That's how you stand out from the crowd. And again, I go to District 9 as there's a reason it was nominated as a Best Adapted Screenplay. It's a terrific script. And Terri put a finger on what I think is the key reason for it, which is they use this aha moment that they use. I put a name on it. It's the Frankenstein technique. This is a technique that was first done in Frankenstein, and Mary Shelley is the mother of all of us here. Science fiction and horror came from her, Frankenstein. And the key moment in Frankenstein is that we start off with a monster who is terrifying, and we flip it, and the monster becomes the hero. And that means then that the original hero, the human being, becomes the monster. And that's exactly what happened. That is the key to that story, where we start off with Wickus as this hero. But then the methods they're using to move these aliens, they go too far. And all of a sudden, you flip, and it literally happens for this character that he becomes both human and alien. Could you talk about a little bit more about what really got you to that concept? Because the whole story turns on that.
I mean, to me, it was, at the time, like whenever you're writing something, I think you're looking for a problem and how you would suggest it be solved. And so when I look at the problem, it's like, be a human, find your humanity. And so the obvious answer to when you're behaving in an inhumane way is to just be kind, be nice, be a human. So it just seems kind of simple, yet important that for Wickus to become a human, he had to actually turn into the monster. So at the end, when he actually makes the choice to save CJ, little CJ, and turn around and fight, that's, to me, his most human moment in behaving in a humane way. And he's like so far visually from what we perceive as human, when us as humans actually aren't human at all often. So that's kind of how my head got there.
Let's do some questions.
This is a craft question. Save the Cat, which has been a Bible in screenwriting, and now us novelists are stealing it, is based on the premise that a character goes through a transformation machine, and who they are in the end is not who they've been reborn since the beginning. That's great in a film or a standalone novel. How do you reconcile that when you're writing, you have 22 episodes to write, or with us where we have a series of books? How does this character get reborn and transformed 22 times in as many weeks?
I have a trick.
Yes.
It's this really crazy,
Mike, please.
Okay, so I have a trick, it's kind of weird, and I don't know if you guys have heard of Enneagrams, but I actually was on a call once with a producer, and they're like, what do you want to write? I'm like, I want to write this and that, all that all over the place. They're like, oh, you're a 7. I'm like, what's a 7? What are you talking about? So I hung up from the call, what's a 7? And there's these Enneagram things, there's personality types, there's 9, I'm going to just spit this up really quickly, there's 9 personality types, but within each personality type, there's 9 levels of development. So anytime I write anything, I do these huge Enneagram charts. Each character has to be a different number to make it good. And then I chart where those characters are at their development. So with the film, like some, it's like if you're a 1, then you're basically a saint, you're the best you could be at your number. I hate that I just told everyone I'm a 7, so basically I'm all about the good times. And in life, we slide up and down. If you read it, you'll recognize yourself. And so I made sure that the characters, if I'm plotting, because plot things you don't end up writing, but it's always, and so honestly, if I was doing a book, I would do Enneagram charts for that character, and in real life, you slide up and down. You're good, you're bad, you're good, you're bad. Do the Enneagram charts for your characters. I'm telling you, it's almost like cheating. I love it.
Could you spell that?
ENNEAG.
Look it up. It's easy. Another response to that is you don't. You don't do that. What he's describing here is a very simple character change that you do for a screenplay structure. You do not do it on series television. You do not do that for serial novels. Yes, you can do character change, but you don't have character change happening at the end of each novel in the series. Okay, it does not work that way.
One great example of a character never changing, but everyone around him changes. Watch HUD from Larry McMurtry's Sportsman Pass By. He is a bad guy at the beginning, and a bad guy at the end, and it costs him everything, and it's brilliantly done.
So my question is not about craft, it's about opportunity. Most of us in this room are indie authors, meaning we went around traditional big 5 publishers and found our success directly with our readers. And now as I'm looking at the video asset industry diversifying so much and other opportunities coming up that weren't there even 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 15, what kind of opportunities do you see for people like us emerging? And I'm thinking of things like Legion M, I'm thinking of things like Passion Flicks, I'm thinking of those sort of things. How do you see the traditional models being broken that are opening up opportunities for people like us who are more directly connected with our fan base and not executives pushing things?
You're in a very good place right now. What you're doing right now is the best thing you could be doing. Because, first of all, you're getting the work out. It's all about portfolio. It's all about building your brand. Then, whatever these new distribution models might be coming up, which no one can totally predict, but whatever they are, they've got to go to you as the content provider. And so you have to establish your brand as you are the only place that they can go to get that. Now also, you're in a great place because when you're doing serial novels, you are also tapping into the great golden medium right now, which is television. And it is totally fractured, Netflix, all of that. That means there is a tremendous desire for content of the kind of content that you provide, which is this serial story structure. The fact that you are also not only creating this, but the expert in this way of writing, again, means they are going to find you valuable. So keep doing what you're doing, keep developing your brand, and just be available to any of these other places that want what you do. Yes?
Yes, I've got two questions. First off, I want to say I love District 9. That was amazing. First question is, most of us in here are probably serial writers. Would you recommend having just a 1-hour pilot screenplay, developing it prior to anybody coming at you, or would you just not even bother?
Absolutely. It's when you are approached and they go, no, we really think this would be terrific for Netflix or Hulu or a theatrical movie or whatever, and then you slap a script down on the desk, is a complete game changer. Because suddenly they're not, oh, well, I thought I would get this book for peanuts, and this guy, I will go back to Wisconsin or whatever it is, you won't know anything. And suddenly you are on the exact same footing, in the same playing field as the person who is interested in turning what you've done into either a TV show or a movie. So I absolutely would recommend that.
Second question, which is, if you have the opportunity to turn it into a video game prior to that, would you go ahead? I work in a school that is video game developers.
Absolutely. Whatever you have an opportunity to do it. You're creating content, get as much out there as you can.
Thank you.
Morning, panelists. Thank you so much for coming. I love District 9. I have your book too, so Truby, I appreciate it. It's a great book. One question, kind of piggybacking on the previous gentleman's question. You mentioned earlier about controlling the adaptation. How do you as a novelist have the ability to control the adaptation? I understand coming in, already having a screenplay written, but if you're dealing with a large studio, a lot of times they have their own writers, they have their own people they want to go to. How do you as an author assert yourself and say, hey, I want to have first dibs at writing the initial screenplay for the book?
Terri?
I think it depends if you're agented up, how they're dealing with it. But having been on the producer side of optioning novels a few times, it's if someone wants your novel, I mean, you can say no. But I think even as a screenwriter, I know that there's a very good chance that my script's going to get taken away from me and rewritten and have a million names on it, and then I'm going to be terrified to go to the movie because it could be terrible and have names on it. So the answer to me ultimately is it's impossible to have ultimate control, but I think if you talk to the people that want your property as a person and connect on a human level, then they're going to respect you and always, don't let the suit people talk for you. Talk to them and just be a person, be a real person and have a conversation, and hopefully, and you'll be able to tell if but just know that you can't be too stubborn, and that you also can't ever have ultimate control unless you're indie publishing your own book.
Hi, so this might be, I'm going in a slightly different direction. And so this isn't applicable, and that's fine, but one of the things that was interesting to me is this idea of a fiction podcast. Not podcast where you interview fiction authors, but it's an actual fiction show. Like, I just saw that guy that did Law and Order is coming out with one. You guys, have you looked into that at all? I was thinking as independent authors, that might be a really interesting and inexpensive way to get into that, some of this.
I had a short story earlier this year that was read and then somewhat dramatized on a podcast called The Raven.
Yeah.
And that thing went through the roof, not because it was my story, but the popularity of that podcast was incredible and way beyond anything I had even imagined. So I would completely recommend. That's just yet another form that the work is taking, and it's reaching a lot of people in that form. And I think it's terrific. It's like radio.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend I actually went to high school with who did the black tapes first, and then he did Kelly, I can't remember the one he did on his own, but he's now working. Hollywood came calling. He's with WME. He's doing Marvel something now, and he's worked really hard at his craft of storytelling, and now his dreams come true. So absolutely. It's like, and I have to admit, I'm a little bit, hey, Paul, we're gonna do something together. That sounds fun. It's like, I think that's an amazing new, I love audiobooks. I love listening to stories. And it's like, yeah, go for it. I think it's great.
Well, what's interesting to me about that whole thing is, first of all, we could do it ourselves. So if that is absolutely, we couldn't, I mean, it might be more difficult to get the characters, but that is something, you know, Apple, iTunes, you can load it up in there. And I was listening too to some of them coming up here, and it's interesting because it does take the audiobook to a whole new level. So.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yes.
One more, okay.
So I'm actually coming from the flip side. I'm not a novelist yet either, but I'm into indie filmmaking. So my question comes from the screenwriting perspective of there's a multitude of stories out there and there's various channels where you can obtain them. I guess my question is like, what veins do you kind of keep your fingers to find like the stories that you want to ultimately craft into, whether a serialized TV show or a movie or even, you know, something for YouTube?
Well, all mine unfortunately has come from the dented back of my skull, so that's and I've adapted a few things and optioned a few things, but they were from people who I knew, and I said, let me take a crack at this, and we weren't able to sell any of them. But so I generally will not go outside, if you will, my own backyard so far to find materials. It's just always whatever, you know, pops in.
To me, it's everywhere. Recently, weirdly, Instagram. Like I'm like the children's series that I'm putting out, it's Endangered and Misunderstood Animals, and all the proceeds from each book are going to the endangered animal of each, and it came from a Instagram post of a dick, which is a little antelope, and I'm like, he's so cute, love for, he's not endangered, so I didn't, he's in a story, but it came from that. And then just yesterday, I saw an Instagram post for Remembrance Day that I immediately went online, ordered all the books that were out there about it, and I'm like, that's my next movie. I'm not gonna say what it is. But so honestly, it comes songs lately are giving me ideas. Like it's just everywhere, and I think the one thing I will say is I have optioned things before and then sat on them too long. So if something speaks to you and you feel you need to tell that story, do it right away. Do it right, don't sit on it.
Thank you everyone for being here and writing those novels.